And hello, everyone. Welcome back to another post-match show. As always, I am Chris, and you can follow me at my Twitter handle located with my name. And as always, I'm joined by my good mate, Irish Tommy. How you feeling?
Feeling good, Chris. Feeling good. We haven't lost in a little while.
I know it's a weird feeling. As a West Ham fan, it is a really, really weird
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah, good one though.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, obviously we kind of have two matches to do.
Yeah, and yeah, reality. Yeah. So, full disclosure, apologies for last week. I would have loved to do a post-match show last week. Fates really didn't just couldn't align. Tommy's been having issues with his camera as of late as well, and finally got him sorted today. Literally at the 11th hour. So here we
Yeah,
are.
yeah. We're back, so that's the main thing. But
Yeah.
and yes, Kieran, we are absolutely massive. No one can defeat us. Uh, they throw all the top six at us. Doesn't matter. They can't beat us at the
We
moment.
still got our toughest challenge yet, to be fair, and we'll get into that later in the show a little bit. But we first got to talk about today's match. So for those of you who somehow haven't noticed or seen through any sort of account, West Ham drew with Manchester City today, 1-1. And going into the match, I definitely would have taken a draw. When we first came out with when the fixture list came out, I think everyone chalked this one up as a loss, like most of our first seven. So to get anything out of it is just a bonus. But for me, like I said, going into it, I would have taken a point. But throughout the course of that match, there was more to be had in there than just a point.
Yeah, I suppose it was your typical kind of game of two halves. Um, we didn't start off very well. We were a little slow out of the blocks. City started quite lively, and we were very defensive, for those first 15, 20 minutes. But thankfully, our shape was very good. Plenty behind the ball. We didn't let them in behind. And Fabianski, in reality, didn't have much to do, despite the fact that City were controlling possession. But as the half grew on, we grew into it. And really, in truth, for those last 15 minutes of the first half, if anything, you would have said it was City that were hanging on.
Yeah.
We had lots of the ball. We had lots of it in their final third. We were getting lots of crosses into the box. And City were struggling, it has to be said. Now, the second half, it flipped completely. And, City played with a bit more tempo. They obviously brought a couple of subs on. Foden made a difference for them coming on, and they brought De Bruyne in later on. And they were having a bit more joy. But we defended stoically right to the finish. So I thought we were the better team first half. They were the better team second. Albeit, I think, in that first half, I think we should have had a penalty.
That's the thing I was going to get into about the terrible refereeing of this match. I don't know. I'd like to get everyone else's opinion in the chat here. But for me, it was a clear-cut penalty. He didn't get any of the ball, brought him down inside the box. I don't know. At least how you don't look at that in the VAR. No clue. No clue at all.
Now, yeah, I was baffled by that because I was waiting for it to come on screen that VAR were taking a look at this to see if it was a foul in the box. But nothing ever happened. No, they were saying on BT Sport later on, I think after the game, that apparently the VAR room did look at it, but for some bizarre reason decided not to say anything to Anthony Taylor. They just decided to they didn't do really an official review. They just looked at it and then ignored it. So I think the proper thing to do there would be to come back to the referee and say, listen, we think you should go to the pitch side monitor and take a look at this. We think there's enough there that you need to have another look and make a decision on whether you think there was a penalty or not. That's what should have happened. But essentially in the VAR room, they just looked at it and for some reason just thought, nah, nothing to see here. Why, I don't know. It was terrible from the VAR people. But Anthony Taylor is a ref that I just can't stand at the best of times. in that first half as well, there was an absolute stonewall yellow card pullback on Declan Rice's arm by Gundogan. And the play went on, which is fair enough. He play advantage, and I thought, right, as soon as the play breaks down here, Anthony Taylor is going to go back and book Gundogan, and then just completely ignored it and let him get away with that. I mean, that's a yellow card. There is no wiggle room on that. That's a yellow card every single time. When you prevent a breakaway attack by hanging onto the arm of an opponent, it's a yellow 100% of the time. So this is a ref that drives me crazy every time he referees a match for us. And he was terrible today. Absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I don't understand how performances like that go. And it just seems problematic throughout. Even the Balbuena challenge late in the match, I didn't see a foul.
It wasn't even a foul. It was as clean a tackle as you see. He won the ball cleanly. And the City player basically fell over his legs after the fact. And then the linesman, who probably wasn't much better than the ref, waves his flag around. And he gives a free kick. And to add insult to injury, yellow cards Balbuena. And I'm looking at the replays and I'm thinking, like, what are you looking at?
No. I didn't think that was a foul. Like we had said, that was not a foul to begin with, let alone a yellow card. And to call that a yellow, but the pullback on Rice not given a card at all is just baffling. It's just absolutely absurd.
Look, that's Anthony Taylor. I dread seeing his name come up. I dread seeing his name come up that he's refereeing one of our games. He's awful. And he's completely inconsistent.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it's become a reality for us that we just have to deal with it anymore. Whether it's bias, whether it's just terrible refs, it doesn't matter. We always seem to get screwed over somewhere or the other.
Look, I'm not someone who tends to get into conspiracy theories about refs and stuff, about bias and all that. But is it any wonder that some people wonder when they see stuff like that? Now, I will absolutely guarantee you, if that had been Liverpool City and Mane or someone had been brought down in the box the way Antonio was, I can guarantee you the people in the VAR room would have told Anthony Taylor to go take a look at it on the monitor.
Yep, absolutely.
And is it any wonder people come up with conspiracy theories then? Because if you're looking at today, giving Balbuena a yellow card for a perfectly good challenge, not yellow carding Gundogan for a clear yellow card, not even looking at the possible penalty decision, it would make you wonder, in fairness.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If there's even if it's just a kind of an unconscious bias, it might not be a deliberate thing, but because it's a big team like City, our refs, just psychologically, are they more inclined to kind of give benefits of the doubt in certain directions? You do wonder about that sometimes.
Yeah. And for me too, you can chalk it up to coincidences, but the amount of sheer coincidences that it would happen, it's almost overwhelming. It ends up being, you can look back at historical examples like Milner's offside against us, when we should have won that game, but he was right in front of the linesman 3 feet offside, and he just doesn't get called. Stuff like that just baffles me, and it gives credibility to the bias or to the conspiracy theories.
I think referees definitely have a different kind of mindset when they're refereeing one of the major clubs. I really do. I think they're psychologically it affects them, and they tend to err toward those teams more than they do the smaller clubs. I'm actually quite convinced of it. I don't think it's anything deliberate. Like I said, I think it's just a human nature thing. Because look, you see what happened last week. Virgil van Dijk picked up a season-ending injury, and you've seen the absolute fucking furore about that. It's ridiculous. You'd think he'd fucking died.
I
You know,
love
it's
to comment on that. I love the one guy. I can't remember whose name it was, but saying that the player that caused that injury should be suspended as long as Van Dijk is out. I'm like, oh, come on.
what a fucking tosspot. Like, fucking idiot. I mean, that's just retarded. But look, if that had been a random player from a random mid-table club, you'd have heard barely anything about it. There would have been a story for that day. There might have been something in the papers the next morning, and that would have been it. You know, they've
Yep.
been talking about, poor challenge from Pickford and player out for the season, bad, terrible luck, and then everybody would have just moved on. But because it's Liverpool and because it's been whatever his name is, Van Kock, whatever his name is, um, all of a sudden it's this big fucking furore, and it was like the mourning that was going on. Like, Jesus Christ, get a grip, people.
Yeah. But moving on, talk about a little bit. So we need to talk about Antonio's goal. First of all, well done, Soufal, actually, I believe it is. His first assist for West Ham. Brilliant ball in, and just incredible finish again by Antonio. This team, I have to say, this team is playing with absolute confidence right now, and it's so refreshing to see.
Yeah, I tweeted about it. I think not long after the Tottenham game that I said, like, for the first time since the 15-16 season, we have a team that genuinely, honestly believes that they are capable of winning any game they're playing in.
Yeah.
Even when, like, that team in 15-16 could be a goal down, 2 goals down, they still believed they could come back and win the game. And for the first time since then, I'm seeing a bit of that with this team. They honestly feel like they can get a result from any game. They feel that they're good enough. Like I said, the confidence is sky high right now. They're playing with their chests out. The formation is really working for the players. Declan Rice actually alluded to that in his post-game interview on BT. He said the formation just suits the players that we have. And so right now, I mean, it's a team brimming with confidence. And so they went out. You saw what happened in previous 4 or 5 seasons at home to Man City. We just rolled over and let them have their way with us. And it was very, very different today. Today was a team that went out and really felt like we can go out here and turn them over. We can go out and beat this lot. And they played like it. And, it's great to see because, that confidence is deep felt. And when you have that kind of confidence in yourself and the players around you, and the results are there to back it up, you're onto a winner. You're onto a good thing. So, yeah, I mean, like, normally for today's game, I would have been incredibly nervous, anxious. I'd have said, Christ, how many are going to put past us this time? But I didn't feel like that today. I felt like we're going to give this lot a game, and we may well get something from it. And thankfully we did. But it's great to see just the confidence that's oozing through them. And I suppose if you wanted the poster child for our confidence right now, it's Antonio. I mean, that bicycle kick today was the strike of a man who feels invincible.
And that one was to be argued too. Had that not gone in, that could have been a penalty as well. So
wouldn't have got it.
No, not at all. But just great determination throughout that entire series. For those who had seen in the comments as well, fortunately, Moyes does not believe Antonio's injury is serious. It seems like it was more precautionary than anything.
Yeah.
If that's the case, brilliant, like absolutely perfect for us. But yeah, this team, I just can't get over it. It was earlier in the week, I believe that it was said that the players were a big reason as to why Moyes was the man selected, because they believed that he was unfairly not given a chance after his previous stint, and he get the best out of it. So slight dig at Pellegrini. So, but Moyes definitely seems to be having that effect. The tactics is brilliant. I did see someone's comment. I don't see it with like for example, Fornals laying down behind the wall just to take away De Bruyne's like low free kick option. Like this team knows what it's doing. It's well drilled. The defense looks better than ever. To only concede one to Man United, to City is brilliant in itself, because I believe the last two times that we've played them, we've conceded a total of 10 goals. So just in that alone just shows how well we're being run at the moment, or how well we're being coached. And even as thin of a squad as we have, we're still getting results.
Yeah, and long may it last. I mean, I obviously look. We've got a huge game at Anfield next week, and I did think that the players ran themselves into the ground today, and they looked particularly tired. So I would hope that David Moyes will tailor the training accordingly over the coming week to make sure they're very, very fresh, traveling up to Liverpool next weekend. But that's one of the, what's one of the huge differences I'm seeing in the team compared to when Bilic was manager and when Pellegrini was manager. The conditioning is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, their conditioning is absolutely top class. I mean, we don't have to go back very, very far to remember Antonio blowing out of his arse after 60 minutes. Yeah. He was done. He was just out of it. He'd run himself into the ground after 60, 65 minutes. He was huffing and puffing, and a lot of other players as well. And remember, we were conceding an awful lot of goals in the last 15 minutes, 20 minutes of games. So that's a huge factor as well, I think. The conditioning of the players now, they seem to have no problem now going for the 90 minutes. They're able to keep going and going for 90 minutes. And I think it may be part of the reason why our results are so much better, as well as the formation. And of course, we've added Sofal, who looks very solid. Souček obviously was a great addition back in January. He's making a huge difference alongside Rice. Fornals has been fucking superb. Bowen, brilliant signing, has really just gotten better and better and better. So a lot of kind of stars have aligned for us, and you have to give Moyes a lot of credit and fairness to him, and right now you would have to say he's doing a very good job.
Yeah, and may I say too on the Souček, with regards to Antonio's goal, 100% not a handball. I think I heard it about 100 times, like the 15 minutes following halftime and immediately coming back. I don't know if it was like this for you, but over there, but for the American announcers, it was just constant. Oh, the possible handball. Oh, the possible handball. Like, no, it was not a handball. If you're going to say it wasn't a penalty because VAR reviewed it, VAR reviewed that and said it was nothing. So just shut the hell up.
Yeah, there's one particular angle that proves it wasn't. That's very clear it was not a handball. There's a couple of other angles which are almost optical illusions. They give you the illusion that his arm was involved. But there is one angle that shows that he did not handball it. So it was a perfectly good goal.
And even so, I mean, his arm was down at his side. So, I mean, it was not in an unnatural position. So
no,
it made no sense to why they kept talking about it. But yes, Moyes is doing a phenomenal job right now. And they're saying that he's going to get a contract extension if they keep up this run of form. And I don't see why not. We're about to get through the hardest stretch of this season. Right on at the very beginning, we said that if we didn't get any points at Newcastle, we weren't going to get any in the first 7, and we were going to be bottom table.
And we have 8.
Yeah, we're on 8 out of a possible 18, which on its face doesn't seem amazing. But when you look at the fixture list, unbeaten against Wolves, Leicester, Tottenham, City. Yeah. I mean, and then we should have had something against Arsenal.
Yeah, we were very unlucky to lose against Arsenal. We should have gotten at least a point from that. So yeah, given like you say, I mean, we talked about this pre-season. The real worry, and I think probably expectation, was that heading into our first game in November against Fulham, that we would be in the relegation zone and possibly even rock bottom, because we did not see really where the points were going to come from. But we have been very pleasantly surprised. Another thing which is massively helping, Chris, remember, is we're not getting the injuries we used to get under Moyes either.
Knock on wood for that one.
Yeah, like we always, in previous seasons, we had like 10 players injured at any given time, and it was hugely disruptive. But again, it probably comes down to the conditioning.
Yeah.
He's got the players in supreme physical shape, and that's probably mitigating against injuries as well. So, kudos to him. He's doing a lot of things right. So I don't want to get carried away either. Look, I mean, if we come through these 7 opening fixtures in or around mid-table, which we probably more or less will now, then we'd have to be very happy with that, because at least then we have a decent foundation, because the fixture list really eases up after that.
Yeah.
And we'll have a good foundation to build on then and try and push our way up the table. And hopefully, come the beginning of the second half of the season, we're not going to be looking over our shoulders, worrying about we have to get so many points from so many games to reach 40 to avoid relegation, all that. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we won't have any of those worries this season.
Yeah, and like you said, the schedule eases up significantly. If we continue to play like we have been these last 4 matches against the bottom half relegation candidate teams, we will have no problem, or we should not have any problem, I should say, getting through those and getting a good amount of points. Right now, I'm as confident as this season as I've ever been. I want to go back to before the season. One thing I had said was I think this team was going to do a lot better than people were anticipating, because all of that pressure and all of those expectations were lifted. Last year, we were being discussed potential top 6. We have almost the exact same lineup, minus a few people now, that we did last year when we were talking about top 6. And we've added the likes of Bowen, now Benrahma, and Souček and Coufal. Those are phenomenal players. Just because we didn't do it last year doesn't mean that their quality or the potential isn't there. So why not to say we couldn't get up the table?
Well, yeah, I mean, in theory, we should. I mean, if we can come through this run of fixtures the way we have, in theory, we should be beating a lot of the teams in the bottom half that we play.
Yeah.
So, now, I know it doesn't always pan out that way. It'll be interesting, actually, now. The Fulham game now, I'll be very interested to see how we play in that game. A team, that will be rock bottom of the table, concede a lot of goals, struggle to score. Given our form, this is a game you would be very confident going into that we can get 3 points. So it'll be interesting to see how we perform in a game where we almost kind of expect to win, and see if the players can live up to that.
And as an update, too, I just looked it up. Fulham is currently down 2-0 to Crystal Palace in the 66th minute. So Fulham just looked like an absolute mess. So that is, regardless of what happens in the Liverpool game, that is the launching point of our season, if we can get a win in that. Because at that point, then, if say we lose to Liverpool, we've still only lost 1 in our last 6. So, I mean, at that point, you kick on from there and you can have a top half season, if not better.
Yeah, I just hope the players will be as motivated going into the Fulham game and have the right attitude. It's easy to play Wolves, Leicester, Tottenham, City, and have your head right and be like, right, big game here. We've got to be right. We've got to be at it. Going in against a team who are going to be rock bottom of the table when we play them, who look like fodder, frankly. We have to make sure, or Moyes at least has to make sure that the players are switched on, tuned in, and have the right attitude going into that game. That they're up for it, that they're ready for it, and that they put out the same effort as they have done in the bigger games. I'd hate to see us turn up for that game and be lackadaisical in our attitude and not be up for it enough and end up fucking getting turned over 1-0 and having a horrible result. So, we need to make sure that the attitude remains the same regardless of who we're playing.
Yep, wholeheartedly agree. And I saw that his question had been answered in the chat, but still, forever. The reason that Benrahma was not on the bench was he had a late test to see if he could. He was not considered match fit. Plus, earlier in the week, Moyes had said that they're trying to work on his pace, try to get him ready for Premier League play. So I don't think it was anticipated to be slotted straight in to the bench, let alone the starting lineup. So I think
basically, look, Moyes, he hasn't kicked the ball for West Ham. He's signed on deadline day. He's only just in the door, new to the Premier League, new to West Ham. Moyes basically wants him to have a few training sessions to get up to speed on his teammates, to get comfortable with his teammates and to get into sync with them. And to get used to our formation and how we play and how we approach games and what's expected of him from David Moyes. So Moyes will give him a few training sessions, give him time just to fit in, so that when he does come off the bench, initially it'll be off the bench for him. So when he does come off the bench, he knows his teammates, he knows the system, the formation, he knows what's required, and hopefully then he can have an impact, rather than just throwing him in with all new teammates in a new league, new formation, new everything, and crossing your fingers that he'll just be fine. So I think Moyes is probably approaching this right, just giving him a little time to adjust to his new surroundings and how we do things at West Ham.
And I think that's what Fo is saying here, saying give him to the Fulham match. I think another important is confidence is obviously at an all-time high, like we've been saying. And so we need every player as confident as they can. To take a new player like Benrahma, who's never played in the Premier League, never played a match with West Ham before, throwing him in against either City or Liverpool, arguably the two best teams in the league, that's odds are not going to help your confidence if you know what I mean. So wait a little while, make sure that, like you said, they're in sync, put them in an easier game, so to speak, against the Fulham on the back of it, and then that's where his confidence and skills start to show.
Yeah, plus he played against Fulham 3 times last season. So
that's true.
He played against Fulham twice in the league and once in the playoffs. So it was a playoff final, wasn't it? Fulham and Brentford. So so he knows Fulham. He knows their players. He knows what they're about. So he'll be comfortable playing against Fulham.
Yeah,
and he'll fancy himself against their defenders. He knows how. He'll have been prepared to play against Fulham on 3 occasions by his manager last season. So. He kind of already knows how to play against Fulham, as it were. So, it would make sense. You didn't want to throw him in today and have the potential for him to be a fish out of water. And he could have gotten a bit lost in the game, not really knowing what he was doing. So, if Moyes decides, look, we'll save him for Fulham, we'll use him in that game, I have no problem with that. Particularly as I love Fornells anyway, and I love Bowen as well. So,
I would never have guessed seeing Moyes compared to Bill Belichick.
and that he looks homeless.
I didn't think of that, but right. I can't even respond to that, Fo. I just can't as a Steelers fan. I just can't. I can't comment on that. That's hilarious, though.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing actually, like just to stick on today's game, the only thing I didn't like from Moyes was the subs.
I was going to actually just bring that up. I was going to say that we've been talking about how well Moyes is doing, but one thing he still hasn't gotten down is how to make proper substitutions.
Yeah, he's far too hit and miss. Sometimes we frustrated because he doesn't make any, or he makes them incredibly late. Other times he brings them on, and the timing is fine, but he just brings on the wrong bloody players and takes the wrong ones off. So no, he got it right against Tottenham. So he does get it right sometimes, but today, unfortunately, was a time when he got it wrong.
Real wrong today.
And listen, this isn't hindsight because Yarmolenko was horrible when he came on. So it's not, it's not David Moyes' fault, that Yarmolenko came on and just was terrible. I mean, there was nothing. I wouldn't have thought Yarmolenko would come on and be that bad. So it's not hindsight because Yarmolenko didn't play well. It was just the wrong substitution. In another game, it would have been fine. But obviously, look, Antonio had to come off. He felt a little niggle, presumably a hamstring or something. And like you said, they took him off as more of a precaution. But what you do there then is you just make it in this game where we have very little of the ball and we need an outlet. To lose a big physical presence up top like that, you need to replace him like for like. You need to bring on Haller, because if we need to boot the ball down there, he can hold it up. He's a big, strong brute of a guy. He can do the job Antonio was doing as a kind of pressure release valve, as it were, where you can just boot the ball up to him and he can just hold it up, big and strong. We needed that this game. In other games we mightn't, but in this game we did, because City had so much of the ball. We were under so much pressure defensively. We needed that kind of pressure release, and Haller would have given us that. Bowen couldn't. Bowen had no chance. I mean, you just can't. He brought Yarmolenko on the right, Bowen centre as a forward, and Bowen can't do that. He's not going to hold up the ball and release the pressure in a game where we have more possession and it's more end to end and a 50-50 game. Fine, you can bring Yarmolenko on the right because he's dangerous and he's got a bit of quickness about him and a bit of skill, and you can have and you can move Bowen into the centre because we're going to be able to bring the ball out and play balls through for him to make those really great runs he makes. But today was not that day, so that was completely the wrong substitution to make at that time.
Yarmolenko was absolutely terrible. I didn't really think I was really confused as to what was happening too, because I know that we always talk about how Yarmolenko can play as a striker and up front because he does it for Ukraine, like the national team. But I didn't realize that he had put him out on the right and Bowen down the center, because I was going to comment about how I constantly saw Yarmolenko playing on the right and forcing Bowen inside. I didn't realize that was by intention. I was going to say that if that's what he was planning on, like if that's what he was doing, then it was just a terrible substitution to begin with. But yeah, Bowen is not really the guy for that position.
I mean that's a good point, Chris. I mean, I think it compounded the fact that he brought the wrong player on. If he'd have brought Yarmolenko on and said, all right, just play as the number 9, play up front, see if you can get in behind and get in the end of something, it still would have baffled me. I still think it would have been the wrong thing to do. But he made it even worse by moving Bowen into the centre to play as the number 9 and Yarmolenko outright, because what Bowen gives you defensively, Yarmolenko doesn't. Bowen works tirelessly up and down that right wing. He falls back in and he's an extra defender essentially in a game like this where City are really pressing high and forcing us backwards, and he's really good at his defensive duties, Bowen. Yarmolenko's terrible at that. And you saw once Yarmolenko went out there and they moved Bowen into the centre that we were getting destroyed down that side. It put Sofal under incredible pressure, and he couldn't really hold on his own. So the danger came down that side as soon as Bowen was moved out of there, and when Yarmolenko was over there trying to track back, because he's terrible at it. He can't defend. He's not great at tracking back. He doesn't see the danger. Doesn't pick up runs. So I mean that we were that close to that single substitution costing us the game.
Yeah, and this is not to say either for me. I didn't think Allaire even had a great match either, but he should have been the guy that was brought on in that position because, like you said, like for like. If you wanted to take off Yarmolenko later, bring on Yarmolenko later for someone, that would have been one thing. But we needed a striker in that position. You and I were then talking about later on that we would have even subbed Yarmolenko off with how bad he was playing. For me,
I mean, I think he gave the ball away every time he got possession. He gave the ball away, and he made one horrific pass back along the touchline.
Yeah.
And put Sterling in, or was it Mahrez? He put one of them clean through, and it almost cost us a goal. And I think that was at the point where I said, okay, I know you subbed him on not long ago, but it's going to cost us the game. I think even if Moyes had said, oh, fuck this guy's going to cost us a goal, he could have just swapped him and Bowen back over again. He could have said, Bowen, look, just go back over on the right for fuck's sake. You know, this guy's a disaster, and could have told Yarmo, look, you just lead the line. At least he can't do too much damage to us up there, you know. And he's not going to cost us a goal playing as the number 9. So I'm surprised Moyes stood back and watched that happen for the rest of the game because, you know.
You and I had said that we would have brought Lanzini on for Yarmolenko, and that one thing was one thing for me too. After a performance, I know it wasn't long against Tottenham, but after a performance like that and securing that goal the way he did, I thought it was almost criminal not to bring on Lanzini. His confidence is now sky high as well, assumingly. Why would you not give him the opportunity to prove himself? Why would you not bring him on in that scenario? If you were, because I think we were a little confused as to if we were, when it was 1-1, if we were going for it with the substitutions we made, or if we were just kind of, all right, we'll take the point. Because we were playing those attacking players, but we weren't doing much with it. And we weren't encouraging it with like bringing on the likes of Lanzini, or we didn't know if we were just sitting back and bringing on the likes of Noble or Snodgrass.
Yeah, I think, no, I can only, obviously I don't know the mind of David Moyes. I can only kind of play devil's advocate a bit. I suspect he brought Yarmolenko on because he felt he would pose a much greater threat on the counter-attack than Haller, which he has in the past for us, in fairness. You know, Yarmolenko is dangerous on the counter-attack. You know, he gets down that wing, he's quick, he's skillful, he can go past the full-back and, you know, cut in onto his right and get a shot off. He did actually get one shot off. Cutting in like that after coming on, but it just hit it wide and high a little bit. So I think that was the thinking, that he would be very useful on the counter-attack and gives us that, you know, little bit of flair. You know, it wasn't for Moyes to know he would come on and for some reason just be an absolute disaster. It was very un-Yarmo-like, you know. It's so I don't know what was going on with him there. Just one of those things, I guess. But yeah, he was terrible. But like I say, I wouldn't have left him in there. But Lanzini probably and Haller were both thinking, Jesus, you know, what have we got to do here? But like you said, when Haller came on, he really did nothing. Didn't really make any runs. Didn't look like he was trying particularly hard. And you have to wonder if he was fucking sulking, essentially. If he was kind of on a downer, because I'm sure when he realized that Antonio was having to come off, he must have thought, right, this is me on now. And then when it was Yarmolenko that was called for, he must have been thinking, what the fuck is this? So I think he had no impact and was poor when he came on, because I think he was fucking sulking, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Yeah, and the commentators here mentioned that too. They said, until our striker goes off and we leave our 45 million pound striker on the bench and bring on a winger.
Yeah, it was just, the whole substitutions thing was just a quite bizarre decision from Moyes, I have to say. But even if you were bringing a winger on, why not Lanzini? I mean,
it is confusing. But what was? Oh, okay. So I also have to give out a shout out here. I don't think that there's anything. So for those of you who don't watch the NFL or any American sports, we have awards at the end of the year, like MVP, Most Valuable Player, Offensive Rookie of the Year, stuff like that. One of them is the Comeback Player of the Year. Right now, I think it is a two-horse race. Like for West Ham, the Comeback Player of the Year is a two-horse race between Masuaku and Cresswell. They are doing ever since we've gone to this five at the back. Cresswell looks incredible in that back three, and Masuaku has just looked massive all season.
yeah. Again, it's down to the formation. It just suits them so much better, both of them.
Yeah.
Cresswell, because he doesn't have the legs for getting up and down the wing anymore. But Cresswell has always known how to defend. You know, he's been a defender his entire career. He knows how to defend. And so he's doing really well there. He actually had a stint there as well, remember, in Moyes' first time in charge. Moyes did actually use that system, and he played Cresswell in that left centre back position, and Cresswell did very well for him the first time around. But yeah, he's a different player now. Cresswell is a left centre back rather than a full back, because he can still trot up the field just inside your opponent's half, which is fine. He can do that. He doesn't have to get down to the touchline to try and cross balls in from right down by the dead ball line. And then, if something happens, he doesn't have to run back the entire length of the pitch. He just can't do it anymore. But he can cross balls from deep now. He can come up and just be that kind of backup player for Masuaku to pop the ball back to. He can put in those deeper crosses. If we lose possession, he doesn't have very far to go to get back into position. But Masuaku, I mean, just he's been absolutely fantastic.
Who would have guessed going into this season that some of our biggest strengths would actually be our fullbacks?
Well, technically we don't have fullbacks, but
yeah. You know what I mean. Well, our defense as a whole, let's say.
Yeah. I mean, that was the huge worry, right? Because we conceded, was it 63 goals last season, something like that. And we weren't really buying defenders, and we're thinking, well, we're going to have the same issues this season with leaking far too many goals. But it's like I say, the change of formation to using three centre backs has just revolutionised our game, really, and our ability to defend is so much better. And it's great to see, because we needed to address that problem. And suddenly we've got players at the back that we trust and who are actually very stingy, and we're really hard to score against. So, and listen, a big part of that, and we have to talk about this again because it stood out like a sore thumb today, and it was great to see again. Rice and Souček are absolutely brilliant.
Perfect pair.
As a central midfield partnership. What a pairing we've got in central midfield now. They're absolutely amazing.
18 months ago, if not a year ago, just a year ago, who would have guessed that we would have an amazing midfield like that? Throw in Bowen, throw in Fornals, and now if he lives up to the hype, Saeed Benrahma. Who would have guessed we would have a good midfield?
Yeah, and Lanzini seeming to be kind of getting back to his old self a little bit. But that central midfield is the engine of the team. I mean, it's the driving force of the team. Rice and Souček are absolutely brilliant as a pairing. There aren't many better in the Premier League as a pairing. I mean, if you look at Man United, I suppose they have kind of, I don't know who sits in beside McTominay there, Matic mostly. Pogba might be there sometimes, or I think Bruno Fernandes plays a bit more forward than that. But I would say if you're looking at Matic and McTominay, they're better than them. And that's Man United's two. All right, Liverpool are very good there. Usually they've got kind of Fabinho and Henderson, but they wouldn't be far off them as a midfield pairing, and they're nearly as good as anything in the Premier League as a central midfield pairing. And you saw it again today. I mean, they're tremendous, and if we can keep those two together, that would be huge for us. For the rest of the season, because obviously all the talk has been about potentially losing Rice, but I think Souček is starting to get a reputation now. And I'm sure there will be clubs, bigger than us who'll be looking at Souček thinking, "Fucking hell, he's good." We really like what we see here. He'll suit certain managers. You know what I'm saying? Who'll be at big clubs who'll just happen to love that kind of player. So I think we might be struggling to hold on to Souček before long as well. So that's how good these two are. They're absolutely brilliant. But as you say, that whole midfield, Fornals and Bowen are absolutely tremendous, just absolutely brilliant as well, and they do such a good job. And all four of those players have huge engines, and their work rate is phenomenal. I mean, they just never stop. It must be annoying for opponents that these guys just like, Jesus Christ, they just never stop running after you. They never stop closing you down. They never stop getting in your face, putting in tackles. So those four are absolutely pivotal.
And now you throw Said Benrahma into the mix, and if he's anything like what we're expecting him to be, that's just another tool in the arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, look, we could have now at our disposal going forward, like you say, we can spring the likes of Lanzini and Benrahma off the bench, which is going to be huge. So, I mean, the last 20 minutes really is, obviously when your opponents are tiring. And the game opens up a bit. There's a bit more space. We saw it today. It was in the last 20 minutes when we were really kind of clinging on, and City were starting to have some joy and open us up a bit. It's because of tired legs, tired minds. So when we have the ability against lesser teams than City, where we've got a lot more possession and when we're maybe on top ourselves, when we have the ability to spring the likes of Benrahma and Lanzini off the bench, to kind of just be those incisive, tricky players that can open opponents up and exploit their kind of tiredness, that could be huge for us. That could be worth quite a few points to us. And I think we're all really, really excited to see Benrahma come on. First time he comes on and fucking skips past a couple of players and gets a shot off, we're all going to be like, "Oh yeah, here we go." It's very exciting to see him start or come off the bench, as I think he will initially. But, and he'll be chomping at the bit. He'll be chomping at the bit to make an impression when he does come on. Yeah, he's going to come on and say, "Right now, I'm going to show you what I can do," because he's going to want to, be picked to start games, and he's got his work ahead of him because Fornals has been absolutely brilliant. So we have which is great, another young, highly motivated, ambitious player who wants to show the world what he can do and what he's capable of, and that he can play for a top team in the Champions League. And that's what you want.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, too, we were talking about how much of a mess Fulham is earlier. It gets worse for them. In the 88th minute, Kamara just received a red card for a challenge on Eze. So now they're without him. They're going to be without him.
Good. Well, that's a red card. That's 3 games. He'll be missing for the game against us.
So the worst, it just gets worse. Better for
so he'll be unavailable to them for our game.
Yeah. But with regards to the midfield as well, I think what has to start being discussed, if it isn't already, Declan Rice's wages need to be at least tripled in December. I don't know if he's on right now, but the lad at least $100,000 a week at this rate. He deserves to be top earner in the club. and Souček isn't too far behind him with needing a new deal. I wouldn't put it past us giving him a new deal next summer.
Yeah, definitely. First of all, Rice. Yeah, 100%. Listen, he's got the armband. He's not the club captain, but he's the on-field captain because Noble doesn't start. So that's a good thing that he's got the armband on the pitch. But you're absolutely right. The sooner the better. He needs to be earning at least 100K a week. We need to massively increase that man's wages.
Yeah, and if
right?
we get
because most of the things are in place, right? So most of the things for Declan Rice to be happy are in place. Plays every week. He's in a team that is improving and is getting very good results and putting in very good performances. So if they came along and doubled his wages, say, we're giving you 120K a week, we're going to double your wages from 60 to 120. Not a single person inside or outside the club would have a problem with that.
Not
one. And then Declan Rice obviously is thinking, oh, fantastic, thanks very much. Yeah. He'll be extremely happy with his wages. He's getting paid.
Yeah.
And he's extremely happy with the fact that he plays every week, that the team is playing well. He's enjoying it. He's playing for England. He's got the armband. If someone wanted to prize him away, you would actually maybe potentially have a real chance to say to him, we'd like you to stay. We don't want to sell you. And
we're building.
You never know with Rice. You never know with Rice. He might surprise you. He might say, do you know what? I do want to stay, actually.
I believe it came out that his agent or someone said, no, it was a Southgate, that he's very happy at West Ham. So, that bodes very well for us to begin with. You double his wages, especially just a few weeks before the January transfer window. He's not leaving the rest of the season. And then, like you said, there's an argument to be made. He seems to love David Moyes, love his system, everything like that. If you extend David Moyes, give him a long-term contract, and you say to David Moyes can go to Rice and say, I want to build this club around you. Why would he want it? As long as they're bringing in people to help complement him and build for the future. Obviously, GSB, it's questionable if they will, but as long as the results are showing on the field like they are right now, I don't think that there's a reason why you would want to leave. Yes, Champions League, but at the same time, you may not get playing time. You're not going to get as much playing time. Okay, wages, but you're already 120. What my offer? It's not like they're going to just suddenly give you 200K a week.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that, really. I would love to see it. I would love to see it happen. And fingers crossed that it does. And because you mentioned there about building a team around him, and we kind of are. And I think he sees that. He sees that actually they are building a team here. He's got Souček beside him now, and obviously Declan knows this is a tremendous player alongside me. He mentioned Souček specifically, actually, in his post-game interview.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, he said it's great to have someone. He said it's great to have someone like Thomas beside me. He says because he does a lot of the running. No, Kieran, behave. The number 6 shirt is retired forever. That was Bobby Moore's shirt. It's never coming back. Stop it. Rice doesn't care about having the number 6. Don't worry about the fucking shirt number. So he's got Souček beside him now. He's got Fornals, who's been excellent. Bowen's come in, been excellent. Antonio is absolutely flying it up front. He's got a Bonner behind him. A solid goalkeeper. So the spine of our team is incredibly good, right? So I always felt like if I was building a team, like if I took over a poor team and I'm thinking, geez, I need to build a team here to make this a good team, for me, I always start with the spine. So you make sure you've got a really good keeper. We've got a really good keeper. You make sure you've got a really good one, at least, really, really good centre back. You make sure you've got a really, really good midfielder. You make sure you've got a really good forward. And that's where you start, right down the spine. And then you build around the spine. So we've got that spine. We have that spine right down the middle. So, and not only do we just have one midfielder as a spine, we've got two of them now since Souček came in January. So we've improved there. Fornals we've bought has improved as a midfield. Bowen has improved as a midfield. The new formation has transformed, as you said earlier, Cresswell and Masuaku. Sofal looks like he's been a really good signing. He's improved us on the right-hand side of the defence. So things are looking up. And you know, they're a tirelessly hard-working team, and that counts for a hell of a lot too. So again, what it will come down to now over the rest of the season is in here. Will the attitude remain the same when we play lesser teams? Like I said, it's easy to be up for City. It's easy to be up for Liverpool, Tottenham, Wolves, Leicester. Can the players get themselves up to play Fulham and go out with the same attitude, the same drive, same energy? If they do, we could be in for a really, really good season.
And so, with that too, going into this season, especially seeing again as the first 7 matches that we did, I never thought I'd be asking this question. Could you see us getting something against Liverpool, especially without Alisson and Virgil van Dijk?
Yes, it's possible. The way we're playing, like I said, we're very strong defensively, and it's entirely possible that we could get something at Anfield. I think a win would be quite unlikely. I think a win would be very unlikely, if I'm honest, at Anfield. Is it possible we could get a draw? Absolutely. That is very much on the table. So yeah, of course it's possible. Now, if Liverpool win it, not a single person will be surprised. You know, they're an excellent side. And of course, they may well beat us. But again, for me, even if we lose, to me, it's about going out and putting in a shift, putting in a performance, and at least giving them a game. If they're going to beat us, make them earn it. Make them earn all 3 of them points if they're going to beat us. Make it a tough game for them. And hopefully give them something to think about defensively as well. You know, create some chances. You know, listen, if we were to go up there and lose 3-2 in an absolute humdinger of a game, none of us would be depressed about that. You know, it would be another really, really great performance where we really put it up to a big team, scored a couple of goals. You know, we would all, I think, come out of that game disappointed, of course, that we lost, but very, very happy with what we'd seen. So that's the most important thing to me, even if we don't get anything up there.
Yep. I can't add too much more to that, like you had said earlier. I think that it's possible. Again, going into these 7 matches, and even during this run, we had said, oh, we'll be lucky to get something out of the Wolves match, the Leicester match. We've said that just about every single time. So for me, it's entirely possible.
Yeah, and it's not actually, funnily enough, Chris, it's not all about us and how we're playing and the formation and everything. It's just the Premier League this season is just like that.
Yeah.
You know,
not to say that.
I mean, this is the most competitive.
Liverpool lost to Villa. Anything's
possible. I mean, this is the most competitive Premier League season I've seen in years. I mean, every game now when you're watching, you're thinking, I don't know who's going to win this. I have no idea what the result is going to be. There are no foregone conclusions this season in the Premier League where you think, this team's got no chance. You're always watching, thinking, anything's possible here. So, I think that helps our players as well, actually, psychologically, because they see themselves, the Premier League is crazy this season. Everyone's beating everyone. Even the powerhouse teams are getting turned over, by mid-table teams or bottom half teams when you don't expect it. And so I think that helps players when they're playing against the bigger teams this season. They're thinking, we won't be the first ones to do this if we beat this lot, They look more vulnerable. The Premier League looks like a more even playing field than it has in a long time. And that's brilliant for me. I think it's fantastic. That the Premier League, I mean, look, this is why it's the most watched league in the world.
Yeah,
nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. It doesn't matter who you're playing or what position they're in. They might come and beat you.
Yep. And that bodes well for us. That really bodes well for us. So
yeah, because our players will be thinking, not just because of our performances and results, but because of the way the Premier League has been this season, our players will be thinking, yeah, of course we can go up there and beat them.
And this from Foe is exactly right. That's why the Super League is wanting to be established, because they don't want to have that competitiveness with the likes of a West Ham or Fulham.
Or Villa. Yeah. That's nail on head.
It's coward.
Basically. Foe's just hit the nail on the head. This is all about the fact that the likes of Liverpool and Man United and the Chelseas and all these, they fucking hate the fact that there's so much money now in the Premier League that teams like ourselves, for example, teams like Everton, Wolves, Leicester, can now build teams that are full of quality and can turn them over regularly. And they fucking hate that fact. They want to sweep aside the opposition. They want this to be a kind of a closed system where there's 4, maybe 5, maybe 6 at a push teams who are kind of up there, and the rest are basically like, well, thank you for playing. But it's not like that now. Like I say, the money is such in the Premier League that even teams like ourselves can build a team that's full of quality, that can give them problems and can beat them. They have to go to teams now week in, week out that might beat them, and they hate that. And they want to monopolize the Premier League again. And the reason this European Super League would allow them to do that is because they would make massive amounts of money from that league. And that would allow them to dominate the Premier League again, because they would have much more money than all of the other Premier League clubs, than the average Premier League club. And so they would be able to attract players that the other Premier League clubs couldn't attract, because they'd be saying, not only can we pay you more wages, but you'll be playing in the Europa Super League every season with us. And that's why they want that Europa League to be a closed system, essentially. It's not like the Champions League where Leicester can come and qualify. They don't want
would be
that.
taking more of an American style.
It's basically a closed system.
Yeah, it's an American system. It's a French.
So the same Premier League teams essentially will be in there every season.
Yeah.
Fuck that. That is here, seriously, Chris, I think
I know. I agree with you. I'm just laughing.
It should be told to them, we might not be able to stop you necessarily from doing this, but if you join that league, you will not be in the Premier League.
Oh, absolutely.
End of story. You're gone from the Premier League. We're not going to have this turned into a monopoly. Forget about it. The beauty of the Premier League is that it's so competitive that no teams have a stranglehold on it. And I think the Premier League and the FA should tell those teams, you want to go join your Europa Super League, go ahead, but you won't fucking be playing in England.
I agree.
Forget it.
I agree.
And the Premier League would fucking, mark my words, the Premier League would flourish without them.
Yeah, I agree.
The Premier League would flourish without them. If they think the Premier League needs them to still be the best product on the planet, it does not. because the Premier League, with the money would still be there. The TV deals would still be there for the Premier League. We would all the people who watch Premier League now would still watch it. It's as simple as that. And the competitive nature. Can you imagine the competitive nature of the Premier League without them? Be even more insane.
I think the attractability for television markets, I think it would go up tremendously because you don't know who would end up winning the league every year. It could be West Ham. It
would be unbelievably competitive.
Yeah.
And the games would still be great to watch. And Premier League teams would still be signing very, very, very good footballers. And paying them very good wages. And it would still be the place to be.
Well, listen, mate. As always, I appreciate you joining me for these. Thank you to everyone in the chat. For those of you who are college football fans, I now get to go watch the first match of first game of the season for my Ohio State Buckeyes. So,
good on you. You're very excited for that. I know. I'm gonna go watch Man United Chelsea. So,
actually, I just pulled it up. Kickoff is about to occur now. So,
I better let you go.
No problem. Again, thank you for joining me. Thank you for everyone joining us in the chat. I don't know what day of the week is our match next week. I haven't even looked into that.
I haven't either. I've just been concentrating game to game because there were such big games. I haven't looked beyond them.
It is next Saturday, 1:30 Eastern Standard Time. After Crystal Palace win, we are now 11th place. Still, I'll take it to where we would be.
It kicks off at 1:30 Eastern Standard?
Yeah.
What is that, 5 hours? What's that?
That's 6:30.
6:30. Oh, hang on now. Is that because the clock's going back? Or?
Yes, probably.
Right, okay. That makes more sense. I was thinking 5:30 normally. What the fuck is that? Fair enough.
Yeah, Sunday the 1st is when the clocks roll back an hour or so.
Yeah. So, okay, that makes more sense. All right. Evening game, live on the box again. Really looking forward to that. Can you imagine if we turn them over at Anfield?
11 points from the first 7 when we didn't think we'd get anything.
I know. Can you imagine?
That, as the table stands right now, that would put us up into 3rd. That's
I mean, there's more games to be played this weekend, but we'll see.
Well, again, though, thank you for joining me as always. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Really good show. Really enjoyed this one. So, even though it was for just a draw. So, until next weekend, come on, you Irons.
Come on, you Irons. I don't know what Chris pressed, and I appear to still be live.
I accidentally pressed leave studio instead of Let's try it again.
Do it one more time. You're distracted.